now.
It's my understanding that we are recording, and we have finished our closed session, and I moved to certify that the information we discussed with the town manager and staff was appropriate and prescribed by law. Certify.
Certified.
Who wants to second that?
Well, Mr. Hamner will second the motion, and all three of us have certified. So we're now back into open session, and we will resume with our agenda. And the first item, we don't have any visitors here, but again, I want to remind the public, I chair two committees. These committees are, the purpose of these committees are to undertake tasks for the council and to make recommendations and do research and to provide suggestions for the committees, for the council to act upon. These three members here have no authority whatsoever, and the audience is more than welcome to be here. We're glad you're here, but there'll be no bantering back and forth and no participation. This is strictly a meeting for the three of us to discuss items and to make recommendations to the council. We are not the council. We are three council members. With that being said, Mr. Town Manager, you have presented us with a revised cemetery policy, and as far as I'm concerned, looks like you've made the appropriate changes to present to council, but Mr. Hamner has some things he'd like to add. The floor is yours, sir.
Had this with y'all's approval. And number 4, David Ostrander said the other night something about he had a sister buried up there. I would like to insert one arrangement, whatever, in addition to a saddle. And I don't know where y'all would want that per grave, just something sitting in front of the stone like a basket or what, but that's up for discussion. And then number 5.
Wait a minute. Let's take one of your items at a time, Mr. Hamner. Okay. Are you following? Mm-hmm. I'm not. So help me out.
Right now, if you read this policy as written, you're allowed to put a flower on one location only, and that's on that family stone.
Okay.
Okay?
Okay.
I think what David was bringing up, that he's got a sister buried in the cemetery, and he would like the ability to put flowers periodically on her individual grave. Okay?
Is there a flat marker there?
This does not permit that.
And Mr. Hamner, you'd like to permit that? Is that what you're saying?
In addition to the saddle, which goes over the stone.
Right.
Yeah, I think they ought to be allowed to one in addition to the saddle.
Is that agreeable with you?
So you can put it on the saddle and the grave, or you can put it on the saddle or you can do both.
Either or both.
Uh-huh.
I mean, that's fine, but how do you say that? That one arrangement may be placed on a grave? Now, I don't want to get to the point where we
In
can't.
addition to the saddle.
And then maybe left there permanently?
No.
When do you want them gone, I guess is the question.
I was thinking that this policy was saying 30 days after burial, there could be no flowers
Well,
at all.
that's what it says.
Right.
So we've got to do some modification.
Yeah.
If they want, they
I
have to
think
put some
30
fresh
days
ones.
is entirely too liberal. If you get that 30 days thing, I mean, those flowers, well, depending on the weather, but they look terrible in the cemetery. You leave them up. But you don't have the flowers you used to have.
Well, after 30 days, you would need to replace them with fresh flowers. Not leave the same ones out there. That's when they start looking bad.
Yeah, I'm confused. Y'all, I'm a hubcap.
I might be lost too.
So you're saying that a grave that was
How about this?
make sure it was interned 10 years ago, you don't have a problem with David Ostrander putting flowers on the sister's grave periodically?
I do not. If
Okay.
he has a saddle on there, you don't have to have a saddle, but if he wants to put flowers on his sister's grave, I think it's fine.
And the parameters of that is one time a year, or may leave flowers up until the keeper of the cemetery determines that they're,
Yeah.
because right now you'll have 30 days after burial
Right.
on the headstone, on the big
Right.
headstone.
And then that's it.
and that's it. So if you wanna add
Well, if we do what Mr. Hamlin's speaking, that blows the whole policy
on,
on flowers.
on flowers.
And then we're gonna end up with what we were trying to avoid, having to cut around so we need to specify, you know, we need to get away from the plastic flowers. You know?
Some people use
That's hard to do.
Well, you can do it when you say everything's gotta be gone in 30 days. I mean, that's what I thought we were doing. I'm not trying to argue with you, Mr. Hamlin.
No.
Again, you're the expert in this.
These are opinions, so.
Right, I'm just afraid that if you can just go over there and set flowers on any particular grave at any particular time, that negates most of the policy about flowers.
Mhm.
Can I say something?
Sure.
Well, y'all were saying after the burial, after interment, the flowers after 30 days gotta be gone. But people can go back and put flowers on that grave.
That's what Mr. Hamler's asking.
I think,
Yeah.
you just
They
can't
put
say you
fresh-
can't never
But
put
that's,
flowers
but that's
on
not
it.
what the policy is.
That's not what his policy says. His policy said that's the end of
You
it.
should be able to put flowers
Yeah.
on your loved one's grave.
Right.
Yes.
So when do they have to go? After 30 days after interment, but 20 years from now, if my wife wants to put something on Charles Edwards' grave,
She can't do it by
I
that.
can't do it by that.
But I think you should be able to go up there and put.
And put some fresh flowers on there. I mean, whatever you want to change, because after a while, they do look bad.
Oh, they look terrible.
Yeah.
You leave them out there, they just
I was-
chopped up by weed eaters, no good.
I was thinking this 30 days after interment, you was talking about all these flowers that, you know, at the burial.
Yeah.
All that needs to be removed in 30 days, but not flowers arrangement. That would be.
Yeah, I mean, if it's their birthday or it's a holiday, people like to put
Yeah, but you gotta
flowers.
figure, and that's fine.
You've got
That's
to have some
fine.
leeway there.
But you got to figure out how to get it in a
If you
policy you can
Think
enforce.
about Christmas time.
Birthdays.
Yeah, and people, the cemetery, it looks nice at Christmas. They put everybody.
And see, number 4, and number 5 is kind of contradicting itself. 4, you can put one of the following.
Do what?
Number 4, you
No,
can put one of the following on the
Number 5,
flowers.
you mean
Potted
5.
plants,
An
Yeah,
artificial flower. What we're trying to avoid is the motorcycle tire.
yeah, but this is flowers, ain't a motorcycle tire.
Well, that's what it says. You
Yeah.
can't put that stuff in.
No,
So if you got that covered, where you can't get the motorcycle tires and all that stuff out there?
Well, it says the
No
town-
growth, okay,
all other decorative items shall be removed by the town immediately.
okay.
Well,
You can do one of the three. You can do an artificial flower, you can do a potted plant, or
Well,
you can do a fresh cut flower.
Here's my problem, is my mom was buried 180 miles from here. So I don't have a loved one buried close by. And I guess, so I'm trying to be sympathetic. I'm trying to understand. If she was at Lakeview, I would probably want to go over and do something on her birthday or whatever. So I'm trying to think of that, but I don't have a problem with any of that.
What's the parameter?
But it's got to be something that's written down with no ambiguity, so we don't have people mad up in here and offend people and all that.
I don't think people should plant flowers on the grave.
No, they can't.
No,
It says
you
right
can't do
there,
that.
it says it in here somewhere.
Well, you see that,
No growing flowers, ivory shrub may be planted on
Because
the.
I know in our cemetery, that's
you
something
know,
people do.
you don't have too much of this in grass cutting time. This is mainly holidays. I mean, especially Christmas.
There's a bunch of them out there now.
Well,
A lot of teddy bears and
yeah.
stuff. and-
Well, see, that's the reason, because you don't have anything to put the bricks on it.
Well, the way it reads here, only fresh cut flowers and potted plants as well as artificial flower designs may be placed on headstones temporarily and shall be removed no later than 30 days.
Doesn't, well,
So then take out following interment. So after 30 days, they probably look bad anyway, so then get rid of them. So take out
why don't we not
following
let
interment.
artificial flower? Make it all fresh flowers. You know,
Yeah,
fresh
really,
flowers.
that's my thing.
Yeah,
Where you going?
That's my thing.
no artificial flowers.
We gotta come up with a plan. And we gotta sit here and do
You
it.
go along with the artificial flowers, Whitney?
huh?
You would go along with the artificial
For some
flowers?
people, yes, I did, because some people can't afford to go to a florist shop.
Not
and
for some
buy.
people. We gotta either have it all.
No, you can't even.
No, I know what
well,
y'all
then,
are saying, but
I'm-
I'm just thinking about, trying to think about everybody.
you can't. I cannot vote to allow the artificial flowers out there anymore. I just can't do it. I mean, you got,
They would have to freshen them up quite often
they would.
if they put
The
artificial.
artificial flowers sit there now, you'll know when a pot of plant doesn't look good.
Mm-hmm.
You'll know
But
because nobody's
that's,
water in the
that's,
summertime.
that's something that your crew can grab and throw in the trash can and go on. If it's documented, you know, if you just have a legal pad out there and put the lot number.
Well, when the flower's dead,
Yeah,
the flower's
that's right,
dead.
that's right.
You know when to take
But
that
the
out.
plastic stuff, you know, then you got a judgment call on when it's faded, and when it's fell over, and when it looks bad. And the first time you send David over there to get it, then you got somebody at the podium calling us, you know, calling us ugly people. It's got to be something that's clear and concrete, like we talked about executive session.
What looks
10 years
bad.
ago, common law made sense. It doesn't anymore. You got to spell it out. If you don't spell it out, you're going to have people angry.
And what looks
Philip,
bad
read-
to one
read
person
that
might
number
look good
5
to
out
another.
loud,
Amen.
But take out following internment, and then that still gives them 30
What
days.
what number you on?
If you read number 5 out loud,
Right.
no growing, okay, wait, where it says,
Only fresh cut flowers and
only
potted
fresh cut
plants.
flowers and potted plants, as well as artificial flower designs, may be placed on headstones temporarily and shall be removed no later than 30 days, period. And take out following internment, and that way, they can be there 30 days, and then they will be.
You need to take
taken-
on headstones off too. That way you can put them on individual graves.
Okay, so what do you do what do you do for 30 days in the growing season when you bury someone's loved one June 30th and raining like crazy and the grass growing this tall and you've got I went out there and looked, man, and this one is it's like tulips. I mean, it looks like them artificial flowers that just grew into a dadgum tulip field, okay?
But then you don't know when they first put them on there
But my
either.
point is,
You
we
know
don't
when
need
somebody
that
put
kind of
them on
stuff
there when it's 30 days.
on the ground. If people want to put the artificial stuff on the headstone for a particular amount of time, we can weed eat around that. That's fine.
How about the artificial and the potted plants be allowed on the family headstone?
Right.
And then fresh cut flowers being allowed on the grave. I know
I'm
that's
fine with
simple,
that. I'm fine with
And
that.
you'll know when to take them up when they're dead.
Well, if not, they'll decompose. We'd eat them up. They'll end up, fertilizer. I don't have a problem with
What
that.
do you think of that way?
Sounds like you don't have a problem with that.
You know, I mean, honestly, Bill's right. You got to deal with it, and you deal with it for a long time. We want to be fair, but at the same time, it's gotten out of hand.
Yeah.
Completely out of hand, and just like Renee said, everybody cannot afford fresh flowers. They're high as blue blazes.
They are.
And I don't want anybody going out there and not be able to afford something on top of the casket. I mean, I want
On the
anybody to feel
individual
bad.
graves.
That's it.
I don't know how, I can't, So if we do that, Wade, every grave out there can have, at any time, I know what you're saying, I understand about the holidays, but what I'm looking at as a legislator here is what you're permitting. And what you're permitting is every 365 days a year, you can go out there and do it, put artificial, whatever you want, on each individual grave, is what we're saying. Or are you limited? Are you going to limit that to 1 per 8 lot, 1 per? It's got to be written down so that we don't have angry people in here. And I don't know how we can. How can we say that you can put artificial flowers on every grave in there? I can't. You could. You'd never be able to cut the grass.
It's a little tricky. I mean, the guys can get it done, but there's certain lots that have just so many on them, you can't go to grass. It's just flowers and.
Then they gonna knock them over. Are they gonna stop and pick them up?
No, they ain't gonna stop and pick them up, and you're not
They
gonna
get
put them
blown up
back.
every once in a while. You walk through there,
Well,
flowers blowing in the
I guess my point is, if you got a 4x8, I don't know what is it? What is a regular grave? 4x5?
10.
4x5?
4x10.
4x10. You got the 40 square feet there, and 38 square foot of it has plastic flowers in it. If you don't weed eat around it and clean it up, then the patrons here raising Cain will not take care of the cemetery.
Why don't we try this?
Wait a minute. If you cut one down trying to cut around it, you gonna hear it. We got to eliminate that.
Why don't we try this?
I'm listening.
We're trying to reinvent the wheel and come up with something that works. There is a cemetery somewhere, and the one in Prince Edward on the highway is very decent. They allow plastic flowers, but each grave it's got a vase or it's got some kind of arrangement. Why don't we find another community that maybe does it better than what we're doing? How about the town crew?
Ta-
But you'll
town
make a
crew,
crew
that's
cemetery
going-
beautiful.
That's one outside the crew, that one's nice.
Yeah, and then there's one over in Rice
Yeah.
that looks very nice.
Well,
Why don't
there's
we
no
just-
urgency here. It's just that I got urgent because we've been putting it off.
Let's get it right, yeah.
We're working on it now, which satisfies me as chairman. Okay, so
Why don't we do this? Why don't Juanita and I get up with the town crew and find 5 other town cemeteries that may have a policy that we could piggyback and have the proper
you all right with
verbiage
that?
in.
All
We
right.
all know what we want. We want it to look cleaner. We want to have a consistent standard, not just when the flowers look bad. How do you rule on that? We want a consistent standard that everybody follows and everything's going to be cool. Why don't we find half a dozen places that already do it, include the town crew, and maybe they've got a really good policy that already states.
I'm
this is what they
fine
can
with
do.
it. You okay with that?
Theirs look
All
really
right,
And
now,
we'll bring it
now,
back to you guys and
that's
we'll come up
fine.
with something everybody can live with.
But I think he's got some other bullets, and let's take those up. You got some more items?
Yeah, on this says no pets allowed in cemetery. I'd like to see that thing says no pets allowed to exercise or running free on or on a leash. And I think it ought to be signed at each entrance to that cemetery, no pets allowed, or whatever you want to put on it. But it ought to be a sign up there saying it on 8th Street and 9th Street. No pets allowed in the cemetery.
Some people they go in there and relieve themselves in the
Huh?
cemetery. I said, some of them go in and relieve themselves in the cemetery.
Exactly.
And a lot of people are disrespectful.
So are
to
you
the-
saying on a leash, or are you saying no pets at all?
No pets at all.
Okay.
You know, I was out there many years ago, about 6 o'clock, and a man in Blackstone came there with a whole truckload of dogs, dumped the gate, and I tell you, it made my blood boil. He drove all the way to the cemetery and stopped me when
And they took off running in there.
he ran all the way through that cemetery. That was their exercise, and
Wait, jumping deer?
Well, a lot of people use it as a jogging trail, which is
No pets at all.
no pets at
well.
all.
I think if we pass this policy, that you don't need an act of council to put signs up, do you? That's it. Okay. Anything else?
That's all I'd like to see that with signs put up there. What do y'all think of
Absolutely.
that?
Oh, absolutely.
I'll have them done as soon as they can get them made. Just
Yeah.
that's a custom sign.
Right.
And so as soon as we get the signs made.
Absolutely. Great idea.
All right,
Okay.
let's go ahead.
Anything else?
I do have a question.
No, I'm talking about on did you have any more on the?
That's it.
Okay.
Cemetery.
Okay.
All right. I would like to get direction from you guys.
Yeah, there's one more. Go ahead.
We need to do some camera work on some drainage pipe at the front. I wanted to pave where we did the improvements on the slope down there, which I think turned out pretty good. We've got a little wash spot that I think we need to work on. But overall, I think it's an improvement for the appearance of the cemetery. And I know our intention is that we want to do some paving in there. And let me give you some prices. It's more than what we had to do it. If you use cemetery fund, we got to do a little camera work in there because when Jason Walker and his guys were doing it, he believed that there's some water in the old pipe. The new stuff is fine. But he said the old pipe has a separation in it, and we may have to dig it up again, so I don't want to pave in there. Question: do you want? And I know there was some question. Well, we did include in the budget the signage in the cemetery. Do we want to proceed on, or we want to save our money? Because I know there was some
On the
split
pipe?
opinion on it.
Where are the pipes running?
They run from the existing drop inlet in front of the Veterans
Uh-huh.
Monument, and they run to that creek that I
Okay.
guess is behind those boxwood bushes. I guess they're American boxwood because they're kind of big. And we put a new pipe in, okay? Because when we put the monument in, that water was not getting to the old box. So we put a second box in and ran a new drain. The first one's there, but Jason Walker said that pipe is separated. We need a camera, and before we pave that section, we gotta make sure it's fixed.
So just so I'm getting some clarity here. You want to hold off on the signs because they.
I
Okay.
wanna hold off on the paving
Okay.
until
Okay.
we get that pipe
Well,
resolved.
Mr. Hamner made a wonderful point, either before the council or before this committee, that we get a tremendous amount of visitors from out of town in there, and I don't want to hold back putting those signs up. I want to do the signs, and I support my colleague. We need to spend some money on the roads in there, because we get a lot of visitors. It represents the town, and then they go down the street, and they go to restaurants, and you know the whole deal. So
Like back up.
might buy a car, might buy a home.
I am of the opinion.
Bring 'em on.
I am of
Yeah.
the opinion in my finance plan that our finance committee is putting a finance plan. I think we need to talk about long-term financing for the cemetery for capital improvements because selling the graves is not gonna pay your bill.
No, it's not.
Especially if you wanna do some big
not.
capital projects.
It's not, and I know, and you know, I know it's a general fund issue. But I like what you're saying, and to give the benefit to the committee, we've done comprehensive plans, and we've done plans because we were mandated by law to do. Now we're starting to do these plans the right way and using them. And I agree. Like we had talked about earlier in my term, we'd get around to an apparatus plan. We're going to get to that. We're getting there. So I like what you're saying.
I'm firmly of the opinion that we need to find a source of revenue for the cemetery that isn't necessarily taxes. I'm not paying personal property, I'm not paying my real estate tax. It's a separate fund. But at $400 a grave, it just ain't bringing enough in to pay Winston and do all that kind of thing. So we've got about $100,000 in the operating account of the cemetery and about $212,000 in the perpetual care fund.
Well, that's off limits.
That's off limits, right. But if we're gonna have long-term capital improvements there, I gotta address that, and that's gotta be something. Is it a penny off of our existing meals tax, or a percent of, or 0.5%? Is it something like that that could be earmarked for those kinds of things? That will be some years in the future until we hit the first finance plans,
Right.
which is our reserve fund. We're getting close, and I think you got another 2 years, and then you're gonna be there. But I think you've gotta come up with more reliable and more substantive financing source for the cemetery that isn't necessarily a direct tax contribution from everybody in town. I think it's gotta be a separate fund. You can earmark other general fund activities for it, but I think you need to find something that's gonna get your signs and get your employees paid and create a separate fund for the cemetery that's perpetual and sustainable. Okay?
I agree.
The other thing that I wanted to bring up is that at the time of death, there'd be a permit fee of $100, which includes the entire cemetery. And I believe you could put that in parentheses, locating lot and identifying grave site by town personnel. It might clarify it a pinch,
Sure.
because there's gonna be some hollering about that.
And where does that go? Where,
Locating lot and identifying grave site
where is he saying?
by
it goes?
town personnel. Number 13.
Oh, you're saying something.
You can do that after the meeting, because
Okay.
we're not going to act on this until y'all do some more research.
So what you just said, you want to add that in parentheses?
Yeah, I would. And on the special conditions requested by the family regarding burial, etc., must be approved by the town manager. Well, give me an example of what you're talking about there.
Give me again.
What are the special conditions?
Number 4.
What is
Number
the special
4 on
condition?
page 2 of the policy.
Yeah, special conditions requested by family regarding burial and so forth must be approved by the town manager.
I'm gonna ask Winnie to answer that question.
Huh?
I'm gonna ask
Yes,
Winnie to
if a
help you.
family comes and they don't have a funeral home handling the funeral, they don't have to ask us, can they do it privately on their own?
We did one this morning.
Yeah.
You
No, we
It was
didn't.
a funeral home helping it,
Funeral home
but we
helping.
buried an urn this
Yeah.
morning.
did? Okay. And
Funeral home handling it.
said the cost of an urn burial will be $200. Who's selling an urn?
It's $200 if we gotta go down there and dig a hole.
200. The cost of an urn burial.
Burial. Mhm.
If we gotta go
Let's
down
put on
there-
there-
I see what you mean.
We
Yeah,
need to
we did
put
this morning.
bur-
There was
can-
a funeral home.
Can we put burial performed by the town?
The cost of an urn burial performed by the town.
Right,
Owned by the town.
right, because
That's right.
you don't charge $200 to,
Funeral
if
director was
you,
sitting in the truck this morning.
if they want to dig their own hole, you don't charge them $200.
Correct, we didn't charge him this morning.
Okay, so it needs to be
All I did
cost
was
of
go
an
back
urn
there.
burial performed by town forces.
But does the $100 burial permit still apply to the
Yes,
urn?
that's what we said the last meeting.
Then we
were
gotta
gonna-
add this to the urn portion.
Okay,
The cost of the urn burial, if we do it, is $200.
$200.
Right.
If a funeral home does it, are they still obligated to pay the $100?
Yes,
on
that's
the?
what we,
So I
that,
think we
You
need
got
to
to
add.
find the grave.
yep, we still gotta involve our personnel, and that's what
We
we
need to
said.
add a number 7 on here.
Okay,
That is $200 if we're doing the whole show. If a funeral home is handling it, the urn burial is only $100 to pay for that permit.
correct,
Right.
correct, okay.
You good with that?
Okay.
All right, and then, so we'll table this until you can get back with us with,
flowers.
on flowers,
Flowers,
okay?
yeah.
So I'm gonna move that, I'm gonna make a motion that we table the new cemetery rules and regulations until such time staff can come back and give us some direction on flowers.
Got it.
Is there a second?
Second.
Second by Ms. Townsend. All in favor, say aye. Aye. Okay, so we'll table that. Are we finished with cemetery? Finished with cemetery policy?
Yeah, I think so.
All right, you can move on to telephone tower.
All right. Telephone tower.
You've got an attachment in the packet.
State code section that was brought to our attention by an employee of Mobile Light. I believe is the name. Or I believe it's the firm she works for. She came that way, she's very pleasant. And they have abandoned the process of putting up these towers.
The one that wanna do it next to rescue squad, up 200,
Crazy,
yeah, okay.
120 feet, and that got
Yeah.
smoked, and we told them no. And they felt like they had the authority to put
In the right of way?
in the right of way, but we maintain our own right of ways in the town of Blackstone, and the state code doesn't mandate we have to do it. I've contacted VML, and they said that is not the case, that you have to let them put these towers in your town, okay? So I think this woman came down because I think she has worked for the city of Richmond in zoning and planning, and she was a little softer approach. And she said, listen, we get it, you don't want towers, we get that. We would just like to co-locate, which means an existing pole. They don't even want to get on a tower, they just want to put something on two existing poles in town. One of them,
Two, and that's it, okay.
that's it.
What's in it for the town? Their fee?
She's supposed to send us a proposal.
Okay.
It ain't gonna be much. If it's a co-location fee or a pole attachment fee, you're probably looking at $7-10 a pole. Get the going price.
If you've got
But
it,
did you
are
pick
you
the
gonna,
poles already?
Yeah, the poles are,
Where?
one's next to Doc Bradshaw's.
yeah, are you gonna have to send personnel out there to watch them or do anything?
They're,
or-
they're gonna
Dan,
replace the
Dan
pole.
did ask to place, he wanted to be the one to for the town to place the pole.
Okay, well then I would wait, I would table this until you get a proposal on how much.
She's supposed to send us a proposal,
Okay.
okay?
So is this a heads up or do we need to
It's
make?
a heads up, you don't need to do anything, but I can tell you, they have given up on the big tall tower. And
Well,
they're
good,
now
'cause I-
asking to locate on two existing utility poles. So that's a town.
I never heard any support for it, so I'd have said, good luck with that,
All right.
okay?
So you make motion to table until we get the contract?
No, he's not asking us to take
Okay,
any
so
action.
We're not gonna take it.
We had, I think the reason I made the motion to table is because it might be in the council package, we were gonna present a, policy.
Yeah, it doesn't, yeah, it will next month, whenever
Right.
she gives up what she's asking.
So we tabled that, but this won't be in the council package, right? Okay. I will ask you to email, after I approve these minutes, to email them to the members of council, so that, since we met so close,
Okay.
okay? Anything else, Mr. Manager? We'll go to the Armory?
I'm good. Yeah.
Okay, all right. We have, I've got a lot I want to talk to the two of y'all about, and staff, there's no one audience here. Staff, we need to have a discussion about the Armory. I moved to Blackstone in 1989, and the Armory has been punted around since that time. The town asked for the Armory from the National Guard in 1988. Okay? So, we are elected officials, and I don't think it's our responsibility to keep punting this along and just keep on and on and on, dumping it into another council's lap. I don't know if it's going to be the same 7 or it's going to be a total new 7. I have no idea. But I do know that we are the elected officials, and it breaks my heart to see Miss Hoover sit out there all day in the sun peddling vegetables to donate to the Armory. And I just don't see how they're going to raise the money. Now, Mr. Osborne is not here, but he was sitting back there in the second from the last row, second seat from the thing, and told my committee that Mr. Nash and President Thompson was here, that they would not be asking for any town money. And that's what we were told 3 years ago. Is that correct, Mr. Hamner? It was about 3 years ago we were told that they would not be asking for any money. So my point is, I'm starting to get uneasy about people that like Miss Hoover, that is working for something that there's no support for. There might not be any support for raising taxes or to use town funds, and people donating money that maybe that they don't have, or they should be donating to the American Lung Association if they lost a loved one to lung cancer, or in my situation, I donate now to breast cancer folks. as much as I can. That's where my charity goes. So that's starting to bother me. Besides the fact, since I've been in Blackstone, it's probably been $250,000 spent on that building through VML insurance, through utilities, through this, that, and the other. And the building is deteriorating. I have fears of we're allowing to have events in there and there's not adequate facilities for restrooms or handicap. We need to drain the swamp. I'm sorry to use President Trump's words, but we need to either decide as a council that we're going to ask finance to come up with a financing plan, or we need to do something about the building. And I think it's wrong to lead the public. The public thinks that this Armory group is trying to get grants and get funds, and I want you to expand on what you've told me. You've had conversations with Senator Ruff. Is that correct?
Pardon?
You've had conversations with Senator Ruff,
Not specific to the Army,
but
specific to
about
VMAC.
grants and VMAC.
Correct.
But so my point is, I want to have a discussion today that we need to take action instead of letting that building turn into blight. I have an idea, and at any time, please stop me. But we have a wonderful facility at Wigglesworth and three dilapidated buildings. Okay, so I think we do need a community center. Miss Wilson's sitting here, and she has a wonderful ministry. I'd love to have somewhere to put her in. There's other groups that we need to have. I had a conversation with you and Miss Wilson in your office about the brain drain going on in this community. Yes, I understand there's been a whole lot talked about the wonderful memories of what's going on out at the Officers Club, about wedding receptions and this, that, and the other. That's all well and fine, but the fact of the matter is we're in a low to moderate income area, and I worry about there's children that don't have access to computers and to internet and have access to core essential things that they need. And I'd love to see us provide those type of services before we try to remodel a building that, could be up to $5 million. And I've heard silly remarks of, that's Richmond bids. Well, steel costs so much in Richmond, costs the same thing here. If anything, I think doing a construction project in Nottaway County would be more expensive than it would to be due in Richmond, because there's so many more people that live, there's so many more contractors that are close to Richmond. So anyway, you can twist the words around and do whatever you want to. I've spoken to my finance committee, and there's no votes on the finance committee to raise taxes or use any taxpayer dollars to renovate the Armory, simply because there are numerous groups that are against, silent and vocal, contrary to what some people may think. If a constituent stops me and says, I don't want my name mentioned, but I want you to hear me, that's just as important to me as the one that comes to the podium. And there are numerous people that have told me, if you put taxpayer money in there, you don't get my vote. You've had my vote 3 times. But you use taxpayers' dollars on that Armory, and I'm not voting for you. I've heard them loud and
That
clear.
sounds like bribery.
Well, it is bribery. That's what we get. We've taught the public to come up here and harass us, and we'll give them what they want. So I get it the same way in private. And I've spoken to some of my colleagues, and they do too. But I think it's time to make a decision that we either recommend to council that the town partner with the Armory Group and remodel and refurbish it, or whatever you want to call it, or we surplus it and we move to a plan that you have already in place at Wigglesworth. We partner with the school board in Nottaway County, and we all get together and we get rid of that blight, create a community center, move the library over there, do the whole 9 yards. You got a $200 and some thousand grant for curb and gutter, phase 1. Is that right? In your pocket. So $206,000, and we can apply for more. More and more people are walking. We can incorporate walking. So much we can do with that land over there. So I've said what I've got on my mind. If you want to correct or or augment to what I've had to say, please do so.
You say you'd talk to your finance committee and everybody then like you, and that's all three of y'all, right?
That's correct. That's correct. One sitting out here in the audience, but we cannot see. So Philip has told the council, if you want me to do the Armory, I can do the Armory, and he can. I just put what 7, 8, 9 pennies on the tax dollar, on the real estate tax. That might not sound like a whole lot, but that's doubling or tripling your current real estate tax. So if your real estate tax in Blackstone is $500, you'll pay $1,500 a year. We ain't gonna stay here long when we do that, I promise you. So that's what the finance committee has talked about. We've talked to Philip about what do you think an amortization schedule would look like, and we just don't see how in the world we can ask the taxpayer to put up that kind of debt service. So
Did we ask? Did we ask the taxpayer?
no, we haven't asked taxpayer.
Okay.
But I've had enough groups up here that I know. But we can have, if you suggest that's what I'm bringing it up. We need to have a public hearing and hear from the taxpayers what they want to do. That's fine. But I'm frustrated at the blight at Wigglesworth. I'm frustrated what Mrs. Wilson is facing over there with that orange building. And I think we need to meet with everybody, and we need to try to get it taken care of. I don't know how y'all feel about the Armory. What do you feel about the Armory?
What do you think, Robert?
Well, I would like to see the Armory renovated. But if it's gonna hinder people from coming together, that's not worth it to me. You know, the arguing and the bickering and stuff, I just can't stand that. And I would like to see the Armory be renovated, but if it can't happen, you know, what can we do?
That's 90% of what I'm trying to say. I don't see how financially we can ask taxpayers to take that burden on, and I don't know how you're gonna do the Armory and half the people happy. Would you agree with that?
Well, somebody's gonna be happy either way, unhappy either way.
It's been
Whatever
3
you do,
years
everybody's
since
gonna be happy.
they've had 3 years, and they haven't come anywhere near close to raising the amount of money that you put a dent in it.
Well, I received an email where they were going to meet, and they were going to try to meet with finance or this committee, and they were going to ask to take the money or a portion of the money that they have raised and hire Davenport and Company to create a finance plan to present to council for us to finance it. When we were told back then that they weren't going to be asking for town money. So now the latest intel I have, because they don't directly communicate with me, is that they're going to be asking for us to spend up to $25,000 for Davenport to come up with a finance plan and hire a bond counsel and blah, 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 blah. Have you heard that, Philip?
I haven't heard.
Well, there was an email I received.
What I had to advise Walter Mack is that the pursuit of grants, and I'll say this because I want everybody can watch the video, and the truth of the matter is, what I've advised Walter Mack is that the pursuit of $2 million of grant may be a futile effort. I just don't know if it's there. I don't see it. Okay, I've fooled with this stuff for a long time. We really put a lot of time into the VMAC project when it was originally going to be a hotel, and we spent a lot of time, and we talked to our legislators who were on the Tobacco Commission, and they've not told me that they wouldn't fund anything at the Armory, but I have told Walter Mack, man, if they weren't going to put any grant money into VMAC, man, it's hard for me to believe that they're going to put a lot of money into the Armory, okay? We can still pursue, and I've told Walter Mack, we can look for things, but at a $1.75 or a $2 million budget, whatever it is, man, I don't see $2 million of grant money being there. So what I've advised Walter Mack and Tom in my office and Yvonne, if you're going to do it, you got to finance it. And to finance it, you got to get the council and the finance folks and everybody to agree that you're going to have to pay for it. Whether you pay for it with medical center funds or new tax revenues or whatever it is, it's going to have to come out of the general funds of the town to get this done. and you don't have $2 million laying around. The town doesn't. So it's going to have to be a financed project. Why do I like Davenport? And the idea for Davenport came directly from me. We've used them twice since I've been here, and they've done a spectacular job. Because they look back at what the time of money and the time value of money and all those kinds of things, and how many pennies will bring ultimately to the town, all those kinds of different ideas. And that's what we did on our last bond issue. That's where the whole Davenport idea comes from. I haven't heard the $25,000 or hiring bond counsel. I think it'd be way premature to hire a bond counsel for sure. But if council is interested in financing that project, you got to know what you're getting into. Just like if you're going to renovate the wastewater plant, you need to know what you're getting into. And that's where Davenport is better than I am and better than a lot of folks, because that's what they do. They can sit down and say, guys, here's scenario A, scenario B, scenario C, and set it up to just how you do it.
Clear to you, I don't have a problem with that. I support it when council tells you.
When council tells me.
Go out here and borrow the $2 million you did to bring the water lines up to date, and we get fresher water, blah, blah, blah. It was a 7-0 vote.
But I don't
Handle
think.
it properly.
I
But
don't.
my problem is, council has not authorized you to even think about
No.
using that kind of money. So,
I don't think it's a good idea for the committee to be involved in that process either. I think the process needs to be under the guidance of the town council, the finance committee, or whoever the council designates to do that. That needs to be under the town council. That money will be audited, and that way it can have a control mechanism over it and how much is spent, or that you can stop when the council chooses to. It's not a good idea for an independent group of folks to be spending donations doing something that may be in conflict with what the council wants to do. If you want to renovate the Armory, this is how you do it. If you don't want to renovate the Armory, that's fine too. But if you're going to do it, you need to know what it's going to cost you and how you're going to pay for it.
You know, my opinion and my vote is this. I would love to renovate that old building. It tears my nerves up. I've been riding by it for 30 years, and it looks like it does. But President Thompson's right. I don't want the bickering, the arguing. I don't want the people chewing me out. It's a no-win situation. And now with Fast C coming, you know, the real estate could be disposed of, and we keep the lot adjacent to it for if we need further expansion or whatever we need. It's a good piece of property to have in our museum district. But I just don't see it. And now, on the other hand, if you'd like to share what we talked about at Wigglesworth, I support. I support the ministry that Mrs. Wilson's doing. I support having a community center. I support a concept. There's a building over there that can be used for that. I support. We have members of council that have a fondness of the old building across the street, and I support moving the library over there with the support of the county and the school board, and using our current library as computer lab, museum. So I support all that, but we can do all of that for less than we can remodel the Armory with nobody happy. So if you will, show your drawing, and then I have an idea. And you know, sometimes I've thrown the stupidest ideas up. Before I go any further, let me ask you this. Perpetual care. Sometimes I ask some stupid questions and end up it's a good question. We put 25% away of what we collected. No, what we did, what were we doing before we changed it to 10? We were doing 25, weren't we? 20. Okay, well, whatever the figure is, can we go back and ask? We're required to put 10%, and that's what we. Okay, can we go back and ask? Can we go retroactive, and take that money out of perpetual care and put it in the general? I mean, it's worth a phone call and say, you know, can we go back and just put 10% instead of the 25? I mean, it's a phone call you make, and they may say, sure, you're required by code to collect 10%. Shoot, that could be $50,000-$60,000. It's worth the ask. I don't know.
Is that escrow money?
Yes, ma'am. I mean, we could take if they would let us go back retroactive to every dollar you collected, it could be $50,000-$60,000 because we were putting 25% away. We were only required. It's 15%. We put too much in perpetual care, that we ought to have in the cemetery fund.
I don't seriously agree to that.
But I say make the phone call. Can you do that? What the heck?
We'll sit down
All right.
this week and next week and make a phone call.
All right.
We'll figure out who to call.
All right.
Is it municipal VML attorney or something? I don't know.
All right.
Well,
But anyway,
you talking about taking the people's money.
no, we've
It's
got,
not-
so there's $260,000 in perpetual care.
About 212.
212, all right? When we sold a grave, we took 20 or 25% of that money and put it in perpetual care. But we weren't required to do but 10%. We could have put the other 15 or 10%, whatever it is, in the cemetery fund.
We're only doing 10 now. Which is
So
minimum
we
allowed.
overpaid the perpetual care fund for years. They may say, yeah, you can go back. I mean, you were required to do 10%. Now, they may let us take the money out of escrow and put it in the general fund and help with Mr. Hamner's streets. It's worth a question because it's $60,000 or $70,000.
It is, and that perpetual care money just gonna sit there.
It's just gonna sit there. So,
If you can do it, cool.
right.
Maybe like Mr. Hammer, that, yeah, I don't know.
I don't either. But I just think it'd be worth a phone call. All right. So show them where we are and what we're talking about.
If you guys remember, in 2016, we asked the county and we sent them a master plan for the buildings over there at Railwood, okay? And that original master plan called for some apartments to be put into one of those buildings, okay? We were going to leave the building across the street alone for the time being, and the developer who was interested in acquiring that two-story building for apartments had indicated to Eric and I, and Eric brought the individual to me, and he had indicated that he would assist the town in renovating the cafeteria building, which is still a pretty good building. If you go in there, it's got a nice terrazzo floors and it's masonry. It got some water leaks I noticed in the ceiling, but it's still a pretty good building. That he would assist the town. We hadn't even gotten that far what the assistance would be, but it was our expectation that they would help us get a new roof on it, an HVAC system, and those kind of things. We didn't have anything in writing. There was no commitment. But he had committed himself to working on the project if we could acquire title to that two-story building down there and deed it to him. He was going to put apartments in it, that was a given, and then he would help us on the other part. I don't think we ever got far enough to, because I don't think the schools were crazy as what they told us. They didn't like the apartments. Okay?
I remember we had a joint
We had
meeting.
a powwow down there at the
Yeah,
school board office.
right.
Okay? So, I think we're leaving the apartments alone.
Right.
This past year, we were finally successful after 2 attempts to improve the streets. If you've driven down there, oh, it's right bumpy and potholy and terrible. And the first phase of this project that was approved, okay, I'll turn this sideways so everybody can see. The phase of the project that was approved is coming from Oak Street, where the sidewalk stops. And we'll bring sidewalk to the corner of Birch and Oak, curb and gutter and sidewalk to the entrance of the park, and curb and gutter and sidewalk on both sides of Harris Street up to about where the volleyball courts are, in front of Yvonne's building, the LCCDC, and asphalt, and it'll have trees and antique lights and all that kind of stuff. We made that application under a TAP 21 grant application. Yvonne and I met with Carlos Brown, who is the rural representative for the Richmond district. And lo and behold, it's a $260,000 project. We received $206,000. We're responsible for $52,000 of material or in-kind services. Okay, and that's going to change that really god-awful look in the front of the place. Okay, but it's also going to go in front of the basketball courts. This doesn't show where the basketball courts are now because they're here.
Right.
Okay?
Right. But there is a phase 2.
Phase 2 will take the walking trail concept, curb and gutter and sidewalk around the entire perimeter of what is Wigglesworth Field now. There's already curb and gutter and sidewalk around that other portion of the property. Okay? Our vision is that it's going to have antique lights all the way around. It's going to be well lit. It's going to be safe. Someone can drop their kids off to go to a ball game and not worry about getting mugged or jumped or any of that kind of stuff. We want to have that around the entire circumference. That's phase 2. Okay? We feel good about phase 2 because when they fund phase 1, usually they'll fund phase 2. Okay? And we have our board member in support so far of what we've tried to accomplish. Mr. Brown's been very helpful, and let the record reflect, Carlos Brown is our representative on the State Commonwealth Transportation Board, and we met with him, and because we did so, I believe we were more successful in our application.
Right.
Okay? That's a nice way to say it. I think he was pretty helpful. All right? That is the street improvements. And ultimately, a soccer field down here. We got to get this parking lot designed and figured and all those kinds of things. But I have confidence, and Yvonne and I have talked about it for years, I have confidence that something can positively happen. If it ain't apartments, what can it be? And I think we can do something over here. Community center oriented. It's not as big as the Armory, but community center where kids could have birthday parties or roller skate or do things in there. Ultimately, can there be more things over there? I've had Mr. Johnson say we'd like an indoor basketball court, and that was part of our master planning. We've heard swimming pools recently. We've heard all that kind of stuff.
Well, I'd like to see a basketball. I mean, I would like to see a place.
I can tell you, gym time is tough to get.
It is tough. I mean, we've got Kinston Forest has 5 basketball teams in one gym. Yeah.
And
You know.
if you, during the wintertime, try to use the primary school's gym, they're very gracious to let people use it, but the rec association has it used up about every night. Okay?
Which is great. Which is
Well,
great.
they're using it, it's just not as available to the general public. Okay? My kids play basketball.
We have 6
If we can play
basketball
rec
teams.
basketball,
We're
I
not
don't think we
coming
can get
up
in
with
the gym.
We got 6. I'm sorry. We have 6 teams using one gym. Yeah.
So I do think, and this is dated 2015, and even before that we were messing with this thing, I think there's potential there. But the school system and the board of supervisors who own the properties have to get on board. That's just the reality of it, is the school board has to declare it surplus, and then it has to be given to the county, and the county's gonna have to agree with the decision. Okay?
Right. So my idea, members of the committee, is to ask the council, could we have 2 representatives of the council, 2 representatives of the school board, 2 representatives of the board of supervisors, form a steering committee on getting this done. And I would recommend the council president, and our chair of finance and this committee, I would recommend us, and naturally their staffs, our staff and their staffs, would get together and try to partnership and clean up that blight and accomplish something with that over there. I'd like to turn our attention to a community center and remove some blight that we can't control. We have control of the Armory. We can surplus the Armory. We can give it to a realtor and we can dispose of it. But we can't do that with those buildings over there. So we don't need to fight those two governing bodies. We need to partner with them. So that's the idea I have, that we partner with these folks and meet with them, and for the betterment of the county and the betterment of Blackstone and our children over there, that we get that area cleaned up. And I tried to walk my neighborhood. I tried to walk in my neighborhood last week at about 9:30, 10 o'clock at night, and it's well lit, but you can't walk over there. You'll go 50, 60, 80 yards where it's dark, and then you can barely see, and you'll come to a stoplight. I'd love for people to be able to walk where they felt safe and secure, and all this basketball going on, and all this stuff over there, all in one place. Kids get out of school, they can go over there. They can go to Mrs. Wilson's ministry. They can go to whatever. I mean, it's the perfect place. Perfect place for the library. It's the perfect place for a community center. It's the perfect place altogether. That's what I've got to say. I really want to know how y'all feel.
So you just want to focus on over there now and give up on the
I think we ought. If I in a perfect world, we would suggest to council to surplus the Armory, and for us to get together with the county and the school board and ask them to partner with us using what grants we all can come up with, and if we have to use a little money, is to spruce up that area over there that's getting a lot, not just basketball, not just baseball, but there's a lot of activity over there. And I'd like to see that the curb and gutter, and I'd like you to have every 1/10 of a mile marked with a little marker. So if I want to go over there and I need to get a mile and a half, you can walk around it. You know, more and more people of older age, like me, are walking.
Mhm.
So, I mean, you know, you're talking about an area we can have over there that benefits from 3-year-olds to 90-year-olds. And it's just screaming that if you're gonna have a community center, there's a place for it. So that's what I'm making this plea for. I just wanna know how y'all feel.
Well, I think that, I think we really need to put forth every effort to meet with the Armory
All right,
Committee
Okay.
before we make any decision as to what we might do.
okay,
Because that's just, to me, that's respectful.
okay,
And see what happens, and because they have worked hard.
they have worked hard.
And they deserve some say so in the matter. But anyway, we can plan to meet with them, and everybody be nice to each other, and try to come up with a plan that everybody might be happy.
Would you not move forward with anything at Ruggleworth?
I don't think so. I think we need to do what I'm saying. Meet with them right away,
All right,
and go ahead and get that out of the way. And this is what we're gonna do, whatever it is.
all right. Mr. Hammond?
Yeah, we got a meeting, Monday night, council meeting Monday night, though. Did you want to get this done before?
Well, and that, she won't, her opinion is, we're going, I'd love, you know, the goal of me is, when I chair a committee, is that we come to common ground, and I'm not gonna carry anything to council unless we all agree on it. Let's just put it that way.
Yeah.
But I'd like to see us move forward. She wants to give the Armory more time. I'm listening to you. What do you think needs to be done?
But I didn't say give them more time. I said we need to let them know this
Right.
is what
Okay.
we're looking at doing.
Okay, that's right.
How do you
Then
mean
they
let
can-
them
they
know?
can-
You want a meeting with them? Or?
Yeah, they have to meet. If they don't meet, then that's on them.
Well,
But they need to know what we're doing.
Well, this is the second time that we made that attempt. They were notified, the mayor was notified that it was on the agenda. The last time we met was, which I can't recall, the date was a week or so ago. And the mayor called me and asked me, you know, nobody could be there, you know, can you put it off? And originally I told him no, that, like I said earlier, it's not easy for you and I, and for your schedule too, sir, and to have staff to get together. But then I remembered, I said, you know, why be the bad guy? The mayor did the same thing for me, and turnaround's fair play. He was very gracious when I called him, didn't oblige me immediately. And I said, you know, I need to be more like that. So we sent Mr. Osborne a notice, the clerk sent Mr. Osborne a notice, and extended to him what times would suit you. I had yesterday, I was not, or was it today, I wasn't available. Yeah, that's right. I couldn't meet until 4 today. But the rest of the week I was available, and would he have a time to ask you to? And we got no response, Barbara. We got no response. I sat across from him in the doctor's office, and he didn't bring it up. So I'm not trying to argue with you. I'm trying to figure out, like Mr. Hamner here, when you say you want to meet with them, what have we got to do?
Well, you can invite them one more time if they don't come.
Okay.
And so that they can hear the discussion as to what we might be looking
Okay.
at doing.
Okay. Mr. Hamner, what are your thoughts?
You gonna call a meeting?
No, I'm not going to do anything until the three of us have all discussed it. I want to know how you feel.
I don't see where any good would come out of the meeting, like she said, being, well, that's being nice, but, make a recommendation. I don't know, I will go along with y'all in any way you want to.
Alright, let me throw one out here.
Yeah.
I think there's a motion from council to let Walter Mack and his crew do the thing with the armor. Okay? Do you need to stop them from doing their thing? If they're gonna raise money to do it?
No, absolutely not. But I
But-
do
so,
not.
I
but
think
do
this-
they have the authority to take this money that was raised and hire anybody, not specifically Davenport.
I think it's an utterly dreadful idea for them to do that.
Well,
Because they're talking about spending your money.
That's not the question I asked you.
Mm-hmm.
Do they have the authority to use that money to provide a financing plan to council?
No, they don't have the authority to spend the $10,000 that was given to us as an anonymous donation that was specific to brick and mortar work. I know that they can't use that.
Right.
The rest of it,
Well, I think somebody needs to know these answers. I mean,
Mm-hmm.
I know, and that Larry Palmore worked his tail off and did stews and barbecues, and I mean, he really worked. He worked hard. It was, I don't know what the dollar figure was, but it was tens of thousands of dollars was raised, and there's no accountability whatsoever. I asked the individual, and she said it went to legal fees.
The legal fees?
Yes. The lady that was heading that up at the time, she said it was spent up in legal fees, and I said, well, can I have some kind of I never received it. So, and again, I want to stress that I'm weary of us having functions in this building without proper restrooms and without, I worry about the liability. I mean, how long does that continue? Those are my questions. I'm not trying to kill the Armory.
Mm-hmm.
But I'm trying to stop false hope. I don't want people to donate something to something that's not going to happen. And I think you've made it abundantly clear to me in these proceedings and in the finance meetings that there's only one way it's going to happen. It's going to be using taxpayer dollars.
You're going to have to finance it somehow.
Right. Right. And you and I were having our weekly finance chat, and you've got a bond coming off that you're going to apply toward that amount. We've got a mountain of debt. We might get $15,000-$16,000 a month, from bonds and cores, but we're also, just one of our bonds is $329,000 a year. Just one. Well, several bonds,
Was that that money from Bon Secours? Did we ever promise that to the Armory Committee?
No, ma'am.
Mm-mm.
No, ma'am. That money's never. That money is. It's been asked. Mm-hmm. It's been.
That all came from a question that was posed to me. How would you pay for it? And I said, well, the only way, if you're not going to raise taxes, if you're not going to raise rates, that's the only place I can see any general fund monies being released in the near future. The last payment of bonds accords, I believe, is in May of 2019. And there will be some revenues. It still needs to be negotiated. We're not there yet. There's going to be some revenues available to the town because you don't have a mortgage payment anymore. You still have some obligations, cut the grass and do some of those kinds of things. There will be some revenues. What those exact numbers are, I've heard them thrown around. I've had people tell me what they thought. But I think this committee will know because you're going to be working on the lease in the next 6 months, a year, or whatever, because the lease with Bon Secours expires the 1st of January 2019.
Well, the same thing works in reverse. So if you get, let's just use a round figure, $15,000 a month. If you save part, if you put that toward funding the finance plan that was voted on 7-0, and you fund that, and then after that, you bank, you either you pay that on those bonds or whatever. That's going to alleviate raising taxes one day.
Potentially in the future, yeah.
Potentially, potentially my big toe. I mean, if you bank $2 million in water and sewer, and you need $1 million project like what we're taking on now, and you've got the money in reserves, and you're funding the depreciation counts in reserves like we ought to be doing.
Mm-hmm.
It's like, I've had the honor of sitting up here, two of the finest ladies I ever met in my life, Miss Constance Wynn and Miss Barbara Thompson. Both of them were sitting. Miss Thompson was sitting over here when Mr. Palmore was crying to us about Brunswick Avenue. He said, "I'm begging you to do something now." And the next thing you know, we had a consent order. So it's the same thing in reverse. So when I'm all for, when you got all your funds and all your depreciation and all that taken care of, then I'm all for a project like that. But if you take money that's coming into us and you don't fund these accounts, then you may end up one day raising taxes to do like we've been doing as long as I've been in Blackstone. When you need something, go borrow the money instead of paying us first. So as long as I'm sitting on this council, I'm going to advocate. I'm going to scream, raise Cain. We get any extra money, we need to pay off our bills. That's what I do at my home, and that's what most people do. Most people do with their businesses. They pay themselves first, and for us to continue to borrow money and raise rates, that's ludicrous to me. I mean, when you got an opportunity to pay down debt, like I was so pleased that you're going to have a debt payment come off, and your plan is immediately to jump on that big one that's 3%.
Pay the additional principal off.
Right. That's what we need to be doing with it. And then when the town's debt free, I don't know what the figure is because it's like pulling teeth, and it should be common knowledge. But I believe the county has close to $30 million in reserves.
No, I really don't know. It's substantial because they
It's a
sold that property
substantial
to Fast C. I assume it's
Right.
substantial, but I don't know what it
You
is.
know, so when we're in that position, when we pay an auditor, when we've got our reserves that are the minimum reserves that our auditors and state officials, and you've called around and talked to people, you know, and you're a member of VEMA, aren't you? Don't you sit on the board?
The town is a member of VEMA. I am the formal board member. Dana's been attending recently.
Okay. But they tell you what we should have in reserve, and you've done all this hard work. When you get those reserves that we voted on, when they're funded, then you know, like at my house, when all the bills are paid, we worry about whether we're going to go to movies or not. That's what I'm trying to say.
Okay.
So that's just my thoughts. So if I tell you what, I'm not going to do. I'm not going to push the issue because Ms. Thompson wants to give them adequate time. So I'm going to go along with her. I'm not,
On the Armory.
yes,
Yeah.
on the Armory.
But I would push the issue on Wigglesworth.
Well, but on the Armory, we agree now. Is that okay with you, Wade? We give them an opportunity?
Yeah.
All right, so I would like for you to write Mr. Osborne and their committee, and you can you get dates, get 3 dates and times you offer between now and the following council meeting, so we can report to council on a recommendation on what to do with the Armory. Okay? Is that agreeable to you? All right, so that's what we're going to do. Now, that's closed. I'm going to talk about Wigglesworth. Does either one of y'all have an objection of us asking council to appoint 2 of us to a 6-member panel, and we start trying to partnership and do something with the blight and what needs to be done at Wigglesworth? How do you feel about that? You want to let that go until we talk about the Armory, or do we want to move forward?
We can still move forward on that.
Do you think that's a good idea? I think if we ask them to partner with us, will you sign off on this idea?
Absolutely. Whatever happens with the Armory back and forth, I think Barbara would make some sense, give them some courtesy and talk to them and find out some answers about donations being used for certain purposes. That's all cool. I don't know if you necessarily need to put the brakes on everything they're doing, but I wouldn't put the brakes on this. I've always advocated for cleaning up this place over here. It's kind of near and dear to what I think the town should be doing, and I don't think it necessarily, now financially, you may have to weigh the options at some point, but I think you can move forward with Wigglesworth and at least get this preliminary stuff going because we are dependent on the county and the school board for them to be able to do something.
Well, you did have the honor of sitting up here with Dr. Harris, and Dr. Harris would say this is democracy in motion because that's our function. We've sat here and we've talked it out amongst each other civilly and properly, and that's why I get out on the street and knock on doors and ask to have the honor of sitting in this chair. So I agree. And Ms. Thompson has led me in the right direction here. So I'm gonna need your advice here how to handle this. What I propose is that we ask the mayor to appoint 2 members of the council to ask the school board and board of supervisors to join us in a steering committee to address Wigglesworth? What do I need to do? Do I need to do the committee recommend that?
No, I think when you're making your committee recommendations or presentations on Monday night, I don't think there's anything nefarious about what you're asking to do. I just say, Mayor, would you please appoint us a couple people? I don't know if you need a motion to do that, but certainly the mayor can get a couple of you that are willing to attend some sit-downs with the county, and I don't know if it'll bear fruit. I don't know if
I
it
don't know if it
will.
will or not, but I'd like to I would like to offer the olive branch. I
Sure.
would like to say, I would like the citizens to see that this council try to partner, play nice, do whatever, you know, and be civil about addressing something that is in both jurisdictions, all three jurisdictions. And I think
I think it's going to take a long time, too. I don't think this is the way this.
overnight, but
I've seen
I
the
don't think
bureaucracy
it's our
work.
duty to sit here and wait for it to get worse. Okay? So that's the way you want to handle it. Is that agreeable to y'all?
Yes.
Okay. All right. Do you have anything else for us?
I do not.
Okay. Is there anything from staff? I know you're busy. I know y'all busy, and I thank you. And I'm very proud of the way this is a delicate subject, and I'm honored to sit up here between these two folks, and y'all's guidance is very much needed, and I appreciate it. But it's something. Sitting in these chairs up here is sometimes tough. And sometimes when the going gets tough, the tough got to get going. It's time for us to get going. And that's just the way I think. I'll adjourn the meeting at
Look here, look here.
5:41. Thank you.
Oh, that was a long meeting.
I'm sorry.
That was a long meeting.